Okay, so now we're going to talk about inequalities really quickly. So if you remember when we did inequalities, we need to graph them because inequalities, there's not just one solution like with an equation. For inequalities, there are many, many, many solutions, okay? So the way that we can show all of those solutions is by putting it on a number line. So you can see that this is x, the first one is x is less than 20. So since I'm comparing x to the number 20, I'm just gonna start by putting 20 on my number line, and then I'm just gonna put a couple of numbers above the 20. Ooh, I almost dropped my pencil. Okay, a couple of numbers above 20. You could do 2 or 3. And I'm gonna do a couple numbers below 20, 19, 18, 17. Okay, so now when you are graphing this, okay, remember, since we're comparing it to 20, if you remember, I put a circle at that number. Okay, now it says that x is less than 20. So I'm thinking to myself, if I were to figure out what number is less than 20, so now I'm going to just kind of show you what I'm thinking in my head. So I'm going to say, like, let's look at 17. Is 17 less than 20? So I just used substitution. I said, well, what if x was 17? Let's substitute that where x is 17 less than 20? Is that true or is that false? And that is true. So that means that 17 is one of our solutions. So what I'm going to do is I want to shade towards that 17, right? I know that that is a solution, right? I know that 19 is less than 20, but I'm going to show you an example. Let's say, what if I thought is 23 less than 20? Well, what if I substitute 23? Is 23 less than 20? No, that's false, right? So I would not want to shade that way because 23 is not going to be a solution. It's not going to make this true. The last thing that I need to think about is that circle that I put on the 20. I'm asking myself, is 20 less than 20? And that is also false, right? 20 is not smaller than 20. They're equal, but it's not smaller. So what I'm going to do is I don't want to shade in the circle where 20 is. I'm just going to leave it open because 20 is not a solution, okay? Same idea with this next one where I have y is greater than or equal to 5. I'm going to start with 5, and I'm going to just do a couple other numbers, about 2 or 3 that are smaller than 5, 2 or 3 that are bigger than 5. You don't have to count by ones either. You could count by 5s, 10s. Really, you can label this however you want as long as it makes sense to you. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try, let's try the 3. Is 3 greater than or equal to 5? That's not true. 3 is definitely not bigger than 5, and it's definitely not equal to 5. So I'm not going to go that way. Let's try 7. Is 7 greater than or equal to 5? Yeah, it sure is. So I put my circle at 5, and I know that I need to shade towards the 7 because that's where we said, yes, that is true. That's going to be a solution. But is 5 greater than or equal to 5? It's not greater than, but it is equal. So that's true. And because it is equal to, I need to shade in the circle at 5. So you can see that difference in the first example and the second example of why we shaded one in and why we didn't. Really quickly, I do want to talk about compound inequalities. This right here really is saying we have two different inequalities. We have a is less than or equal to 4, and we have a is greater than 1. But all they did was they wrote it so that both of those inequalities were together in just this one, what we call compound inequality. And it's not as scary as it looks. I'm pretty much just going to be graphing both of those same things. So I need to make sure I have a 1. Oh, that's a 4. I need to make sure I have a 1. I'm going to put 0, 2, 3. I need to have my 4, 5. Okay, so I'm going to have a circle at both of those numbers. I need a circle at 1 and a circle at 4. Okay, so I'm going to test each of these kind of on their own. So all of my solutions, so let's do a is less than or equal to 4. Okay, so if a needs to be smaller than 4, would 3 work? Is 3 smaller than or equal to 4? Yeah, sure is. So I know I'm going to want to shade towards the 3 for sure. Okay, let's try, oh, excuse me. Let's try a is greater than 1. Okay, is 3 greater than 1? It is. So that means that from my 1, I also want to shade towards my 3. So what we see is with this compound inequality, really I'm just shading in between those two circles, because A is going to be somewhere in between 1 and 4. Those are all my possible solutions. Now I do need to test and see, should I shade in my 1 and in my 4? Well, A needs to be bigger than 1, but 1 is not bigger than 1. That's false. Oh, my bad. Okay, that's false. So I'm not going to shade in that circle, but because it's A is less than or equal to 4, 4 is less than or equal to 4. So because of that, that is true, and I do want to shade in that circle. Okay, so this is your compound inequality. Go ahead and pause your video, and I want you to try these 2 examples on your own. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and graph this first one. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's a -1. Remember, -1. I have a circle at 0. I have a circle at 3. So I have 0 is less than or equal to B. So B, my solution is going to be anything really that is bigger than 0, right? It's eating the B. So whatever my solution is, it needs to be bigger than 0, right? So is 0 less than or equal to 1? Yep, it sure is. So I would want to shade towards this one. Same idea, is B less than 3? So I could try 1 is less than 3. That's true, so I'm also going to shade towards that 1. And then 0 is or equal to, so I do need to shade that one in. But because the 3 is not or equal to, I'm going to leave it as it is. And then for this next one, it says write the inequality that goes with the graph. So you have this graph given to you. So I'm going to choose really just any variable. I'm going to use x. And I can see that I'm comparing it to my circle is at -3. All of my solutions are bigger than -3. So that means I need to be eating it needs to be going towards the x. And because that circle is open, that means it is not going to be or equal to. So this is your final solution. If you have questions on this, check out Khan Academy. There are a lot more videos that are going to go through this slower than I just did. So you should be able to get a lot more help from there. And feel free to comment with any questions you have.